The lights in the long silver hallway flickered softly as Captain Rain walked in silence. His black uniform reflected the glow of the neon panels lining the walls. The air felt cold and sterile, just like every other part of the alien ship he had been trapped on for the last 3 hours. He had been taken from his shuttle, alive, confused, and unarmed. The aliens hadn't spoken much. They scanned him, measured him, and then locked him in this section of the ship. Now, finally, the door at the end of the corridor slid open with a deep hum. Out stepped her. She was tall, her silver hair shining like liquid light, her eyes glowing faint blue. She wore a metallic suit that looked like it was part of her body, molded to perfection, with glowing circles pulsing softly on her chest and shoulders. Her movements were slow, graceful, almost too perfect, like someone who had studied humans but never been one. Rain stood still. His training told him to stay alert, but his curiosity held him still. The alien woman tilted her head. Her lips parted slightly as she spoke in a soft, melodic tone. "You are human," she said carefully, as if testing the word. "Your form is different." Rain nodded slowly. "Yeah, that's me. Human. Captain Rain Mercer." "And you are?" She didn't answer. Instead, she stepped closer, her eyes scanning him up and down. Her gaze was intense, scientific, but almost childlike in curiosity. She stopped in front of him, so close that he could feel the cold energy radiating from the glowing circle on her chest. Then it happened. Her eyes widened as she noticed the outline in his uniform. Her expression changed instantly, from calm curiosity to alarm. She stepped back quickly, raising her hand to her wrist device. It lit up in a flash of blue. "Weapon detected," she said sharply. "You dare bring hidden technology aboard?" Rain blinked, startled. "What? Wait, no, no. That's not." He tried to raise his hands in surrender, but she was already circling him, scanning. Her device beeped once, confused. "Organic," she whispered. Her glowing eyes darted between the scanner and the suspected weapon. "Explain, human. How can your body carry this structure?" Rain's face turned red. He rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. Look, that's not a weapon. That's just human anatomy." She froze. "Anatomy?" "Yes," he said quickly. "Completely natural. Nothing dangerous. I swear." The alien woman stared at him in silence for several seconds. The glowing ring on her chest pulsed slowly, as if reacting to her emotions. Then, something unexpected, she laughed. It wasn't loud or mocking. It was soft, like a melody breaking through the cold silence of the ship. Her laughter echoed in the hallway. "You humans are strange," she said finally, her voice lighter now. "Your species hides many surprises." Rain gave a nervous smile. "You're telling me?" The moment eased, but only slightly. She still looked curious, almost fascinated. She stepped closer again, this time without fear. "I am Commander Elora," she said, placing her hand over her glowing chest emblem. "Leader of this vessel. We were not sure if humans were compatible with peace." "Peace sounds great," Rain said. "I'd prefer that over more scanning." Her lips curved slightly, half smile, half study. "Perhaps you are not as dangerous as the Council believed." Elora walked beside him now, leading him through the long corridor. The ship hummed quietly around them, like a living machine. As they walked, Rain noticed how the walls seemed to shift slightly, as if the metal was breathing. "Your ship, it's alive?" he asked quietly. "Yes," Elora replied. "It responds to emotion. It senses fear, and trust." Rain frowned. "And what does it sense now?" Elora stopped. Her eyes met his. "Confusion," she said softly. "From both of us." They reached a large observation window at the end of the corridor. Beyond it stretched a massive view of the stars, distant suns and swirling nebulae. Rain had seen many skies before, but this one felt unreal, like being inside a dream. Elora stood beside him, her reflection glowing against the glass. "Your people destroyed their own world," she said. "And yet, here you stand. Still searching." Rain looked at her. "Maybe we're all searching for something," he said quietly. "Home, truth, or just understanding." Her eyes softened slightly. "Perhaps," she murmured. "But remember this, human, sometimes understanding leads to fear." A low alarm suddenly echoed through the corridor. Red light flashed on the walls. Elora turned sharply, her calm expression gone. "Unidentified energy source detected near the containment deck," said a robotic voice. Elora's eyes glowed brighter. "Your arrival was not alone," she whispered. Rain's heart sank. "You mean, someone followed me?" She didn't answer. She only looked at him, this time with suspicion and something else, worry. "Stay close, human," she ordered. "If this is what I fear, both our species are in danger." The hallway lights dimmed as the ship began to tremble. Somewhere deep within the vessel, a new presence was waking up. Something that wasn't supposed to be here. The ship shook again, harder this time. The lights in the hallway flickered, turning from white to deep red. A cold voice echoed through the metal walls. "Warning. Unknown life form detected in containment sector." Captain Rain turned to Elora. "What's happening?" Her glowing eyes narrowed. "Something entered our ship, something not human, not from my people." She raised her wrist device, and blue light wrapped around her arm like a holographic shield. "Stay behind me," she said firmly. "The ship is nervous." Rain blinked. "Nervous? You mean the ship?" "Yes," she interrupted. "This vessel is connected to the minds of its crew. It feels what we feel. Fear, anger, even confusion. And right now, it feels fear." The walls around them began to pulse faintly, as if the metal itself was breathing fast. A deep hum filled the air, followed by a faint whisper-like vibration, almost like the ship was whispering to itself. Rain felt the hair on his arms rise. "That's creepy," he muttered. Elora didn't smile this time. "It's not just fear. It's warning us." She touched the wall gently, and the glowing patterns changed, forming strange alien symbols that rippled like water. Then, from the far end of the corridor, something made a sharp scraping sound. Like claws on metal. Both of them froze. Rain's instincts kicked in. "We need weapons," he said quickly. Elora's eyes glowed brighter. "The ship has already locked its armory. It won't release weapons when it senses panic. We must stay calm." Rain gave her a doubtful look. Easy for the one with glowing armor to say. She glanced at him sharply, but before she could respond, the wall next to them bulged outward, like something was pushing from the other side. The metal twisted, creaking under the pressure. Elora stepped forward, her hand glowing as she projected a small circular shield in front of them. "Stay back." The wall burst open. A black mist spilled out, thick and alive, moving like liquid smoke. Inside it, Rain saw shifting shapes, eyes, maybe faces. It was impossible to tell. It wasn't just dark, it absorbed light. The mist hissed, and the air grew freezing cold. Rain stumbled back, grabbing the edge of a wall panel for balance. "What the hell is that thing?" Elora's voice was low and steady, though her glowing ring pulsed fast. "We call them void shadows. Energy beings from the edge of space. They feed on emotion." Rain swallowed hard. "Emotion?" "Yes," she whispered. "Fear makes them stronger." The mist lunged forward. Elora raised her shield just in time. It hit the glowing barrier and screamed. The sound wasn't human. It felt like it went straight through their bones. The ship trembled again, lights flickering wildly. Containment breach, the robotic voice repeated. System integrity at risk. Rain shouted over the noise, if it feeds on fear, how do we fight it? Elora looked at him, her face tense. By not feeling fear. He stared at her. You're kidding, right? I never kid, she said coldly. But Rain could see something in her eyes, a flicker of emotion she couldn't hide. Even she was scared. The void shadow slammed against the shield again, harder. The barrier cracked slightly. Elora gasped as the energy pulse pushed her back. Rain caught her before she hit the wall. Hey! You okay? She nodded weakly. The ship, it's hurting. It feels our fear. Rain looked around, seeing the walls ripple like waves. Then we have to calm it down. Elora frowned. How do you calm a ship? Rain thought fast. Same way you calm a person, talk to it. Elora blinked, confused. You think it will listen to you? He shrugged. Worth a shot. He placed his hand on the nearest wall. Hey, ship, he said awkwardly. I don't know if you can hear me, but we're not gonna die today. So maybe, chill out a little. Nothing happened for a moment. Then the pulsing light along the corridor slowed, just a bit. Elora's eyes widened. It's responding. Rain smirked slightly. Guess it likes my voice. But before they could relax, the shadow split into two. Both forms shot through the corridor like black lightning, disappearing into the air vents. Elora cursed under her breath in her alien language. They are spreading. Great, Rain said, scanning the hull. So we're trapped in a living, scared ship with two emotion-eating monsters. Perfect day. Elora straightened, regaining her command tone. We must go to the core chamber. That's where the ship's mind is strongest. If we can stabilize it, we might contain the shadows. Rain nodded. Lead the way. As they moved down the corridor, the ship seemed to whisper around them, faint echoes, like distant voices speaking in fear. Elora glanced at Rain. You humans, you hide fear behind humor. I don't understand it. Rain smiled faintly. That's because if we don't laugh, we break. It's how we survive. Her eyes softened for a moment. Strange, but admirable. They reached a massive circular door glowing blue. Elora pressed her palm against it. The door opened with a deep hum, revealing a vast chamber filled with floating light crystals and energy streams. At the center pulsed a bright sphere, the core heart. It was beautiful, and trembling. Elora whispered, "It's afraid." Rain looked up at it. Then we better give it a reason not to be. But before either could move, a cold whisper filled the room. The temperature dropped instantly. The void shadows were already there, waiting. And this time, they had learned their fear. The core chamber glowed like a living star. Streams of blue energy floated through the air, twisting and pulsing like veins. Every pulse echoed with a low hum, as if the ship itself were breathing. But now that breath was broken, fast, uneven, afraid. Captain Rain and Commander Elora stood at the edge of the glowing platform, staring at the core heart, a sphere of pure light, suspended in the air by invisible force. The void shadows circled above it, silent and shifting, feeding on the fear radiating from the trembling ship. Elora raised her wrist device, forming a barrier around them. The core is reacting too strongly, she said, her voice tight. If its energy collapses, the whole ship will break apart. Rain squinted at the glowing sphere. You said the ship feels emotions. Then maybe it's not just scared. Maybe it's trying to tell us something. Elora shook her head. The core does not speak. It only feels. Rain folded his arms. Every feeling has a reason. Fear means danger, right? So what's it afraid of? Elora hesitated. Her glowing eyes dimmed slightly. It remembers. Remembers what? Rain asked. She looked away, her expression unreadable. The war. For the first time, Rain saw a trace of pain in her eyes. You mean, you fought something like this before? Yes, she whispered. The shadows came once before, centuries ago. My people created ships like this, alive, connected to us, to fight them. But the cost was great. Every ship that felt too much fear, turned against its own crew. Rain frowned. So that's why your ship's scared. It remembers losing control. Elora nodded slowly. And if the core's fear keeps growing, it might happen again. The shadows moved closer, their shapes flickering like living smoke. They whispered in a language Rain couldn't understand, cold, echoing voices that crawled into his mind. He felt a chill crawl down his spine. They're talking, he muttered. Elora stiffened. Do not listen to them. They twist thought. They can make you see what you fear most. Rain took a step forward. Maybe that's exactly what we need, to understand what the ship's afraid of. Elora reached out quickly, grabbing his arm. No. You don't know what they can do. But it was too late. The shadows swirled faster, wrapping around him like a storm of smoke. For a moment, everything went black. He was standing on Earth. But not the Earth he remembered. The sky was burning red, cities in ruins. He saw ships, thousands of them, crashing through the clouds, alien and human both destroyed by war. Then he saw something else, Elora, standing among the wreckage, her silver armor cracked, her eyes full of sorrow. And behind her, a giant version of the same ship they were on now, falling from the sky, glowing like a dying sun. A voice whispered inside his mind. Fear repeats itself. You cannot stop what has already begun. Rain gasped and fell to his knees as the vision faded. Elora was beside him, shaking him gently. Rain. Speak. What did you see? He looked up at her, pale and sweating. Your ship, it's seen this before. A war between our kinds. It's afraid we'll start it again. Elora's expression hardened. Impossible. Humans never reached this part of the galaxy until now. Then how does it remember Earth burning? Rain asked quietly. She stared at him for a long moment, and for the first time, she looked truly unsure. The core's memories are passed from one ship to another, she said finally. It stores every encounter, every death, every fear. If it remembers your world, then our histories are more connected than I ever believed. Rain stood up slowly, looking at the pulsing core. Then it's not just a machine. It's a survivor. Elora looked at him, her tone softening. Maybe that is why it chose to keep you alive, human. It sensed something in you, something it remembers. Before Rain could answer, the core flickered violently. The lights turned red again. The shadows screamed, their forms stretching as if pulled by invisible hands. Elora shouted, they're feeding on the core's memory. They're consuming its pain. Rain stepped forward, clenching his fists. Then we need to give it something stronger than fear. Elora's eyes widened. What do you mean? Hope, he said. If the ship feels emotions, then maybe it can feel ours too. Elora hesitated, uncertain. Hope is not a command. It cannot be programmed. Rain smiled faintly. Good thing I'm not programming it. He placed his hand on the glowing floor. Listen, he whispered, his voice calm. You're not alone. Whatever you saw before, it's over. We're still here. We can make peace, not war. For a second, nothing happened. Then the glow beneath his hand brightened. The ship's hum softened, steady, peaceful. Elora looked around in awe. It's working. But just as hope began to rise, one of the shadows lunged forward, striking the core directly. The entire chamber exploded with light. Elora screamed as energy burst through the air. Rain was thrown back, hitting the ground hard. When he looked up, the core's surface had cracked, thin lines of dark energy spreading across it like veins. Elora staggered to her feet, eyes wide with horror. No, no, it's destabilizing. The robotic voice of the ship echoed again, now trembling like it too was afraid. Core integrity falling. Emotion sync failing. Human presence required. Rain blinked. What did it say? Elora turned to him, shocked. It asked for you. The floor beneath them began to fracture, light spilling through the cracks. The shadows twisted around the core, laughing in their strange, broken voices. Rain stared at the pulsing light, feeling it pull at his mind, like it was calling him. What does it want from me? He whispered. Elora's voice was barely audible over the chaos. It wants your memory, your truth. The core flashed again, and the world dissolved into light, the world dissolved into light. Captain Rain felt weightless, like his body was floating between dream and reality. His mind stretched across endless space, colors, voices, and memories flashing around him. He tried to speak, but his voice was swallowed by the light. Then, out of the blinding brightness, he heard a voice. Soft. Familiar. Do not resist. The core is linking with you. It was Elora's voice, but distant, like she was speaking through a storm. Rain blinked, and suddenly he wasn't standing on the ship anymore. He was inside something, a world of living memories. He saw images flashing all around him, alien cities glowing like stars, vast battlefields filled with silver ships, and creatures made of shadow and light colliding in silence. It wasn't the past of one person. It was the memory of the ship itself. Elora appeared beside him, her form shimmering, half real. Her glowing eyes looked softer now, filled with sadness. You are seeing what the core remembers, she said quietly. Rain turned in slow wonder. It's beautiful, and terrible. Yes, she whispered. This is what happens when emotion becomes too strong. The core carries centuries of pain. It has seen war, and death. As they walked through the memory world, the scene shifted again. Now Rain saw Earth. He saw humans in early starships, small and fragile compared to Elora's people. But then something shocking, humans fighting beside aliens that looked like her. Together. Elora froze. That cannot be, she said. My people never allied with humans. Rain pointed. Looks like we did. Maybe long before your time. The scene zoomed in on a young woman in silver armor, holding hands with a human pilot. Together, they stood before a glowing ship core, the same design as Elora's vessel. The pilot's voice echoed faintly. If we connect our hearts, we can end the war. No more shadows. No more fear. Then the light shattered. Rain fell to his knees as the memory faded. That was us, he whispered. Humans and your kind, we built this technology together. Elora looked stunned. But why would we erase it from history? Before Rain could answer, a dark wave spread through the light realm. The void shadows were here too, crawling into the memory itself, infecting it. The colors dimmed. The sky cracked. The core's voice trembled. Emotional balance failing. Memory corruption spreading. Elora grabbed Rain's arm. We must stabilize it. The core is dying inside its own mind. How? He shouted over the roar of collapsing light. You must let it see your truth, she said. Show it what humanity has become, not the war, not the destruction, but the hope. Rain closed his eyes. All right. I'll try. He reached deep inside his thoughts, searching for something pure, something real. He remembered Earth not as a battlefield, but as home, blue skies, laughter, his mother's voice, the smell of rain, the feeling of love and loss and survival. The images poured out of him, glowing from his chest like light itself. Elora gasped. It's responding. The core's world brightened again. The shadows screamed as rays of light burned through their dark forms. They twisted and dissolved, retreating into the void. Rain felt warmth spreading through him, a strange connection that wasn't painful, but deep. Like the ship itself was inside his heart now. Then came another vision. He saw Elora, not the commander, but a little girl, standing in a white room, touching the glowing walls of a young ship. A voice spoke to her. You are its guide. Never let it feel fear alone. Rain looked at her in surprise. You were bonded to the ship as a child. Elora nodded slowly. Yes. My people are born connected to our vessels. We share thoughts, dreams. When the core feels fear, so do we. That's why I must protect it. The light flickered again, calmer now, almost peaceful. But the core's voice sounded faint, weak. Balance, restored. But corruption remains, one shadow still within. Elora frowned. One still remains. Where? Before Rain could speak, the light twisted. He looked down, his arm was turning black, as if the shadow had hidden inside him. Elora gasped. Rain. It attached to your life force. The black veins crawled up his neck. He felt cold spreading through his body. It's inside my mind. Elora moved closer, placing her glowing hands on his chest. Listen to me. Fight it. The core can help, but you must open your mind fully. He groaned in pain. If I open it, won't that connect me completely to the ship? Yes, she said quietly. You will never be the same again. Rain met her glowing eyes. Then do it. The world exploded with light once more. Energy flowed from Elora into him, merging their thoughts. For a brief, blinding moment, Rain saw everything, Elora's memories, the ship's emotions, the endless fear of being forgotten. And in return, she saw him, his courage, his love, his hope for peace. Their connection created a storm of pure energy. The last shadow screamed and vanished into dust. Silence followed. Slowly, the light faded, and Rain opened his eyes. He was back in the core chamber, lying on the cold metal floor. Elora was beside him, breathing heavily, her eyes dim but alive. The core above them now glowed warm and steady, no longer trembling. Elora looked at him weakly. You did it, you saved it. Rain smiled faintly. Not me. Us. The ship's robotic voice spoke again, calmer than before. Emotional sync complete. Human and Illyrian link, stable. Rain frowned. Wait, what does that mean? Elora hesitated. It means, the ship now shares both our emotions. You are connected to it, to me, in ways that cannot be undone. Rain sat up slowly. So, we're basically one team now. She gave a small, tired smile. More than a team, human. We are now part of each other's worlds. But deep inside the ship, a faint flicker of darkness still moved, hidden, silent, waiting. The ship floated quietly through the dark stretch of space. For the first time since Rain had come aboard, there was silence, no alarms, no shaking walls, no shadows screaming in the dark. But the silence didn't feel peaceful. It felt watchful. Rain sat alone in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. The core heart was calm now, glowing softly through the floor below, but ever since the memory exchange, something had changed. He could feel the ship, its heartbeat, its breath, its quiet thoughts. And sometimes, something else. A whisper. At first, it was faint, like an echo in a dream. But every time he closed his eyes, he heard it more clearly. Rain. A soft, cold voice. Not Elora's. Not the ship's mechanical tone. Something older. Something patient. He shook his head, muttering, "I'm just tired." But deep down, he knew that wasn't true. The door slid open behind him with a soft hiss. Elora entered, her armor dimly glowing under the low lights. "You have not rested," she said softly. Rain gave a tired smile. "Hard to sleep when your brain's sharing Wi-Fi with a spaceship." Elora tilted her head slightly, still trying to understand his humor. "The connection may cause confusion. Human minds are not built for direct emotional sync." He turned to her. "You mean hallucinations?" Her expression hardened. "If you hear voices, tell me immediately." Rain looked away, hesitating. "What if it's just the ship trying to talk to me?" "The core speaks through me," she said firmly. "If you hear anything else, it is not the ship." A small shiver crawled down his back. He hadn't told her about the whisper. "Not yet." Elora stepped closer, her tone softening. "You saved this vessel, Rain. The core trusts you. But something still lingers in the emotional field, a trace of the shadows. Until it is gone, you must not let it enter your thoughts." Rain nodded slowly. "Got it." But later that night, if you could call it night on a ship that never slept, the whisper returned. He woke up suddenly in his cabin, breathing hard. The lights were dim, the walls pulsing with the slow rhythm of the ship's heartbeat. Then, from somewhere inside his head, he heard it again. "You saw the truth, didn't you?" Rain froze. "Who's there?" No answer. Just the sound of his own heartbeat. Then the voice again, calm, cold, curious. "You touched the memory. You know what they hide." Rain sat up, his hands shaking. "What do you mean? What are they hiding?" A soft chuckle echoed in his mind. "You think the Illyrians built the core alone? You think peace was their goal?" He felt a wave of cold energy pass through him, the same kind he had felt when the shadows attacked. "You are linked now, Rain. You can find the truth. Deep inside the core lies what even she fears." Then silence. Rain pressed his palms to his temples. "Get out of my head," he shouted. But the voice was gone. The next morning, Elora found him in the control hall, staring at the ship's central console. His eyes looked tired, his skin pale. "You didn't sleep," she said. "Couldn't," Rain replied quietly. "Elora, what exactly is buried in the core's memory?" She frowned. "Why do you ask?" He looked straight at her. "Because something, or someone, just spoke to me through it. And it knew things you didn't tell me." Elora's expression darkened. "Describe what you heard." Rain hesitated. "It said the core wasn't built by your people alone. That the truth is being hidden." Elora turned away, her silver hair catching the faint blue light. "There are things even I am not allowed to know," she admitted. "Our ancestors sealed parts of the core's history. They said it was for protection." "Protection from what?" Rain asked. She didn't answer. Her eyes glowed faintly as she looked at the wall. "Come with me." They walked through a narrow corridor that Rain hadn't seen before. The walls here were darker, colder, like the ship itself didn't want them there. At the end was a sealed door covered in strange glowing symbols. Elora placed her hand on it, but it didn't open. "The core resists," she said quietly. "This is the memory vault. It holds the oldest data, and the most dangerous." Rain stepped closer. "Can we access it?" She shook her head. "Not without both our links." He raised an eyebrow. "So if we connect our minds again?" "It could kill us," she interrupted. "The core might see it as a threat." But even as she spoke, the symbols on the door flickered, reacting to Rain's presence. One by one, they began to glow brighter. Elora stepped back, alarmed. "It's responding to you." Before he could move, the door slid open with a deep, echoing hum. Cold blue mist poured out, swirling around them. Rain looked inside, and saw rows of glowing memory crystals, floating in the air like frozen stars. Each crystal pulsed faintly with light, and whispers. Faint, broken whispers that filled the chamber. Ellora's voice trembled. These are the lost memories of the first alliance, the humans and Illyrians who built the first ships. Rain stared, amazed. So it's true. We were allies once. Yes, Ellora said softly. But something broke that bond, something so terrible they erased it from time. As they stepped deeper into the vault, one crystal glowed brighter than the rest, a dark red light pulsing inside it like a heartbeat. Rain reached out instinctively. Ellora tried to stop him. No. Don't touch it. But it was too late. The crystal shattered in his hand. A surge of red energy exploded outward, filling the room. The walls screamed as if alive. The whisper returned, louder now, full of power and rage. You shouldn't have remembered, human. Ellora grabbed his arm, pulling him back, but Rain's eyes were glowing, the same red as the crystal. The voice echoed through him, through the ship, through every circuit and wall. The war never ended. It only forgot. The vault shook with power. Red light flashed across the chamber as the broken crystal's energy filled the air. Rain fell to his knees, clutching his head. Voices screamed inside his mind, not one, but hundreds, shouting over each other. Fire the beams. They betrayed us. Seal the core. Ellora tried to pull him away, but the force around him was too strong. The floating crystals began to spin, their glow pulsing faster and faster. Then, everything stopped. Rain's eyes opened, glowing red. He stood up slowly, breathing hard, and when he spoke, his voice carried two tones, his and another, older one. The war never ended. Ellora stepped back, her heart pounding. Who are you? Rain blinked, his eyes flickering between red and blue. I saw it. The first war, the truth they erased. What truth? Ellora demanded. Rain looked at her, his voice trembling. Humans and Illyrians were allies once. We built the core together to stop something else, something neither side could face alone. Ellora frowned. Something else? Yes, Rain whispered. A race made of light and shadow. They called them the Noborn. The name made Ellora freeze. It was a word she had never heard, yet it felt ancient, buried in her blood. Rain continued, his eyes still glowing. The core wasn't just a ship. It was a weapon, designed to seal the Noborn forever. But when humans realized the cost, they refused to continue. The Illyrians erased that part of history to keep the truth hidden. Ellora's voice was barely a whisper. What cost? Rain looked at her sadly. The core needed a living mind to stay alive. A soul to power it. Every ship like this one has someone inside, forever bound to it. Her eyes widened. That's impossible. He shook his head. Then why can your ships feel fear? Why do they cry out when they die in battle? Ellora's breath caught. You're saying. Yes, Rain said softly. Your ancestors sacrificed their own to create the fleet. The ships are alive because they are your people. Ellora stumbled back, her metallic armor trembling. No, that can't be true. We honor the core as sacred because it's made of your dead, Rain said. His voice broke as the whisper returned inside his mind. Now you see, Rain, the voice hissed. Now you understand what they buried. He fell to his knees again, clutching his head. Ellora ran to him. Fight it. Don't let it take control. But the whisper grew stronger. The seal is breaking, the Nullborn remember. The vault walls started cracking, glowing red. The other crystals shattered one by one, releasing images, flashes of burning skies, dying planets, ships made of pure light collapsing into darkness. Elora could barely breathe. This power, it's ancient. Rain looked up at her, eyes half red, half blue. They're waking up. The shadows, they weren't random creatures. They're fragments of the Nullborn, trying to return. Then why attack us? She asked. Because the core still holds part of their prison, he said. And I just broke the key. The ship shuddered violently as alarms blared. Elora opened a control panel, her fingers moving fast. The core is destabilizing. Energy levels are spiking across every system. Rain struggled to his feet. We have to contain it. The vault is sealed, she said. We can't repair it from here. Rain touched the wall, feeling the pulse of the core. Maybe I can. She looked at him, realizing what he meant. No, Rain, the link could burn your mind. You won't survive another merge. He gave her a weak smile. I already shouldn't have survived the first one. Before she could stop him, Rain pressed both hands to the wall. His body glowed as the core's energy surged through him. The ship screamed, a deep, metallic sound filled with pain and fear. Elora reached for him. Stop. You'll die. He turned his head slightly. Then at least I'll die remembering what really happened. The core pulsed violently. Through his mind, he saw visions, humans and Illyrians fighting side by side, sealing the Nullborn in a cage of light. He saw the betrayal, the fear, and the final lie that erased everything. And then he saw something new, a shadow breaking through that ancient seal. They are coming, the voice whispered. And they remember your names. Rain gasped as red lightning filled the chamber. The ship's systems screamed. Elora was thrown back as the energy exploded outward. When the light faded, the vault was silent. The symbols on the walls dimmed. The crystals were gone. Rain lay still on the floor, smoke rising from his hands. Elora crawled toward him, trembling. Rain, can you hear me? He opened his eyes slowly, normal again, no red glow. But his voice was weak. The seal, it's broken. Elora's face was pale. Then the Nullborn. He nodded faintly. They'll come for the core first. And then for Earth. The ship suddenly spoke, the same mechanical voice as before, but shaking with fear. Warning. Unknown energy detected in deep space. Multiple signatures approaching. Elora's heart dropped. They're already here. Rain tried to stand. Then we fight. Together, like our ancestors did. Elora looked at him, this fragile human who had become something far more. She extended her hand. Then let history remember us this time. He smiled faintly and took her hand. Outside, in the black ocean of space, thousands of red lights blinked into existence, moving closer, like a storm of stars returning after a long sleep. Space trembled. The stars themselves seemed to fade as thousands of red lights moved toward the core ship, a silent storm spreading across the dark. Each light pulsed like a living heartbeat. The Nullborn had returned. Rain stood beside Elora on the command deck, his face pale but his eyes burning with determination. The ship's alarms screamed in endless rhythm. Contact in 2 minutes, the ship's voice warned. Unknown fleet size. Energy signatures beyond measurable range. Elora tightened her grip on the console. We are outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Rain smiled weakly. Guess it's a fair fight then. She turned to him sharply. This is not a moment for humor. But he saw it, a small tremor in her voice. Not fear, but sorrow. She already knew what was coming. The core pulsed beneath their feet, blue, then red, then blue again. It was fighting for control. The memories Rain had awakened were tearing the ship's systems apart. Elora, he said quietly, there's something I didn't tell you. When I touched the vault, I saw her. Her. He nodded. The Empress, the one who first commanded the Illyrian fleet. She sacrificed herself to seal the Noborn. Her mind became the first core heart. Elora froze. That means... Yes, Rain said softly. Every core after her carries a fragment of her spirit. The ships are her children. The deck shook violently as the first wave of no-born ships appeared, bright red arcs slicing across the darkness. Their attacks weren't like normal weapons. They tore through space itself, bending reality with each hit. Elora shouted commands, her voice echoing through the bridge. Activate shields. Redirect all power to the forward barrier. But the energy readings dropped fast. The core couldn't handle the strain. Rain stepped forward. Let me link again. She turned in shock. No. The last time nearly killed you. He smiled faintly. Then this time, I'll make it count. Before she could stop him, he pressed his hand to the glowing core interface. The ship's light turned white-hot as it connected with him once more. Pain shot through his mind, but beneath it, he felt something else. Warmth. Presence. A voice. Soft, regal, and powerful. You are not Illyrian, it said. Why do you carry our pain? Rain whispered, because pain isn't supposed to be yours alone. You fought for life, and I will too. For a moment, silence. Then, a faint, motherly tone. You remind me of the first human who stood beside me, long ago. He saw flashes, the Empress herself, tall and radiant, standing with a human commander in ancient armor. Two species united before the First War. The light around him grew brighter. Elora shielded her eyes. Rain. What's happening? He turned to her, his voice echoing with two tones again, his and the Empress's. She's waking up. The ship's walls glowed, forming the shape of a vast, luminous woman, the Empress's spirit. Her eyes burned like twin stars. When she spoke, the entire vessel vibrated. My children have forgotten. My warriors sleep. But now, we rise again. Elora fell to her knees in awe. Mother of the fleet. The no-born fleet fired again, their red light cutting through the void. The Empress raised one glowing hand, and the beams bent away, deflected like streams of water hitting stone. You imprisoned us in silence, a dark voice boomed from the approaching ships. Now your time ends. The Empress's tone grew cold. We ended you once. We will do so again. She looked at Rain, her form flickering. But I am weak. The seal can only be restored through a living bond, between human and Illyrian. Rain met Elora's gaze. Then let's finish what they started. She hesitated, her eyes full of emotion. If we do this, we won't survive. He smiled. Then we'll die making history remember us. Elora took his hand. The core flared. Blue and red energy intertwined, forming a massive wave of light that shot through space. Their minds linked, not just with each other, but with the Empress herself. For one brief, beautiful moment, Rain felt everything, Elora's strength, the Empress's sorrow, the heartbeat of 1,000 ships across the galaxy. Together, they unleashed the last light, a storm of energy so bright that even the Noborn's red stars dimmed before it. The wave struck the enemy fleet, tearing through their shadows, sealing them once more in a cage of pure light. The stars returned. The silence came back. The war was over. But the core heart began to dim. Elora looked at Rain, tears in her eyes. You did it. He smiled weakly. We did. The Empress's voice faded softly. Rest now, my children. You have brought back what was lost, faith between your worlds. The light slowly vanished. The ship floated quietly, half broken but alive. Later, rescue vessels found only one survivor, Elora, unconscious beside the core. Rain's body was gone, but his neural signature remained within the system. And sometimes, when the ship sailed through the silence of the stars, she could still hear him whisper through the circuits. "Told you it'd be a fair fight." She smiled softly, looking out into the endless dark. "Rest well, human. The Empress watches over us all." The ship's engines glowed one last time, bright, white, and pure, as it disappeared into the light of a distant sunrise.